quiet here in shul as well. So I thought maybe I woke up an hour earlier. Okay, let's see
Maybe, maybe people think we're on a Sunday schedule.
But davening in the Agudas is regular time.
Oh, right.
Businesses aren't closed today. I think it's just like post offices and banks and I don't think regular businesses are closed. I don't know. Okay, let's see what the Gemara says. Let's see the Heilige Mishnah at the bottom of Daf Lamed Beis in the base. Shofar shel Rosh Hashana. The Shofar of Rosh Hashana. Good morning, Avensi. Shofar shel Rosh Hashana. We're just at the Mishnah at the bottom of Lamed Beis on the base. Shofar shel Rosh Hashana. Ein navirin olav es hatchum. You're not allowed to go past the tchum to retrieve it. You need it. Vein mefachin olav es hagal. And you're not allowed to dig it up from a pile of rubble. These are all only isurim derabanan. And Rashi says the purpose of doing this is leilech chut l'tchum l'shmoya tkiya. So that's what we're talking about. Not to retrieve the shofar, but if you have to go chut l'tchum to mekayim it or to move away rubble so you can get there, lo olam be'ilan, you're not allowed to go on the tree in order to hear shofar. And again, there's an issue derabanan to go on the tree because you might break off a branch. And you're not allowed to ride on the behema again because we're choshed, you'll break off a branch to hit the behema. You're not allowed to swim again. There's a gzeira because you might make a chavish al shayatin, you might make a life jacket. You're not allowed to cut the shofar. Say if you're cutting it with something that is a shinui, and therefore it would only be an issue of or if you're cutting it with a proper knife that's designed to trim horns, where there's an issue there, I say. Morning. Yeah, with the mission at the bottom of Lamed Beis for this. Aval imratza lita in l'soichei mayim or yayin yiting, but you can put in water or wine, and the Gemara is going to tell us that makes the sound of the shofar sound better. The Gemara is going to tell us that meirag layim is even better for it. But that we don't use. Zok more about it. Ein akvin is that he will not stop children from blowing shofar. The Gemara is going to elaborate on this. But you actually could work with them to train them, so they should learn how to blow shofar. If you're blowing, you're not even trying to blow in the shofar. You're just blowing, but you had no kavanah even to make a sound. Lo yotza, you won't be yotza. And if you hear someone blowing shofar, and that person wasn't even trying to blow, you are not either going to be yotza. Okay, so Gemara is going to go through now all these cases to clarify what they mean. My timer. What is the reason why you're not allowed to do all these things like go past the tchum and why can't you do all these things in order to be mekayim the mitzvahs asay of shofar? So tomorrow, because shofar is an asehu, the Yom Tov is both an asay v'lois asay. The ein asay in the mitzvahs asay of tkiyah shofar, doiche as lois of asay will not be doiche the lois and asay which are referring to the isser to do these things. I know. So oilam be'ilam. What are the problem with that? It actually might come to a real deraisa. You might actually cut down something, even though it's only derabon. You're not cutting down anything by riding on a behema or climbing on a tree, but you might come to cut something down. But if we go to the earlier cases in the Mishnah, it says those two items, even though they're also only midrabanan, they can't lead to a deraisa. Going out of the tchum is a rabbanic issue in itself. It's not because it's going to lead to a deraisa. So the Gemara asks, Hashta the rabbanon amrit. If you're not even allowed to do things like go past the tchum where it cannot lead to a deraisa, still we say you're not allowed to do that for the purposes of blowing shofar. Deraisa midboy, these the rabbonans which could lead to a deraisa, surely you should not be able to do those. So tomorrow you're right. It's zu vein tzarech lo mezukatani. One of the methods of the Tana expressing himself will say a bigger chiddush, and then I'll say and the smaller chiddush I don't even have to mention, but he mentions it anyway. Let's you ask you what Deraisa means. Deraisa Roichin is not really in Deraisa, but the Ikal Meimar Shema Yachtach Zemura, it could lead to a Deraisa. Va'ila be'ilah Dikal Meimar Shem Yitlosh Deraisa mi boy. Rashi Veish Kimgum Bedavar, he doesn't like the fact that it says Deraisa. The near Be'enai like your sinula. Because Lamaisa it's not Deraisa. Going on to an Elon and going on to a Behema are not Isurim Deraisa. We're being doichik that it means that it's a derabban that could lead to a deraisa. It gets even better because the next case of the Mishnah is a real deraisa. It says vein chayt chanaisai vein bedaber shum mishum shvus vein bedaber shum loisase. Correct the more mishum shvus. What type of cutting the horn would only be derabbanan? But more if you use a magla. If you use a magla, it's really made to cut wheat with. It's made to cut stalks with. It's not made to trim a shofar. So therefore, it's not the right keli to be used. It's only also derabbanan. Loisase. What type of keli would be an issue deraisa to cut the shofar, to trim the shofar with? So tomorrow shakina, a knife that's made for it. Correct. Tomorrow hashna mishum shavos amrit loy. If there's only a disur derabbanan involved, we say you're not allowed to do it. Loy says do I need the Tana to tell you that if there's a real issue deraisa that the mitzvah of shofar is not doichet? So tomorrow in the the same as far as before zuv and tarach loy mezukatani. The Tana first has a bigger chiddush, and then he says in the smaller chiddush I don't even need to mention. Zok to Gemara weiter. Aval imratza litin l'soichei mayim or yayin yitin. If you want to pour water into the shofar, which is going to enhance the way it sounds, you'll be right. So tomorrow mayim or yayin in. Meiraglayim loy. Mayim or yayin you could put into a shofar. Meiraglayim you shouldn't put into a shofar. Masnis and money. Who is the Mishnah going like? So tomorrow Abba Shaul, the Mishnah is going according to Abba Shaul. The Tanya Abba Shaul Aimer. Mayim or yayin muter kedei l'tzach tzachoi because it makes it sound better. Meiraglayim also mipnei hakavod. So the question is, what does it mean mipnei hakavod? Doesn't mean it's the covet of the Baal Tekeh. Who wants to boil a shofar that was just full of meiraglayim? But if that's the case, if the Baal Tekeh will be moichel and say, listen, I'm happy, you clean it out good, but it makes the coil better, maybe we'll be allowed. But there's others who learn that that covet means how you talking for the mitzvah of shofar. You should have it soaked in meiraglayim. So then even it's not about the Baal Tekeh, it's about the mitzvah in general shouldn't be enhanced with meiraglayim.
They used to use meraglaim for cleaning
That's right. It's one of the 7 products that cleans off ziva.
Right.
Without.
Yeah,
Without.
I
Right.
couldn't understand the halamina.
My favorite story is the story of the Ragachover. The Ragachover once was asked to give a haskama on a sefer, and he wasn't one to mince his words and to be politically correct. So he looks at the sefer. He says, with all due respect, I cannot give you a haskama on your sefer. There's no way I can put a haskama on your sefer. So this fellow was very disappointed. He says, listen, if the Rav is not willing to give me a haskama, can you at least suggest a name for my sefer? And I'll name the sefer the name that you tell me, and I'll tell people I showed my sefer to the Ragachover, and he told me that I should name it so and so. The Ragachover says, yeah, that's not a problem. I think you should name your sefer Yain Kafrisen. So he says Yain Kafrisen. That's such an unusual name. Both have is Yain Kafrisen. So he says because if you look at her bonus, it says Ba'aloi Meiraglayim Yofinlo. Meiraglayim is even better than Yain Kafrisen. So I think you should name your sefer Yain Kafrisen.
You know why the Rav Chover? I just realized it bothered me that the Rav answered him in such a sharp way. But you know why he answered him in such a sharp way? Because the fellow was trying to deceive the public through the Rav Chover by using that.
That's right.
Meaning, the way I heard the story, could the Rav Chover could just name the sefer? And the way you explained it, so that I could show it to him in the Rav Chover, that's called deceiving. That's called asking for your haskama without getting the haskama.
Right.
Therefore, you get kicked to the gutter.
That's right. That's right. But the other story with him is somebody asked him for a reference letter. So he took a legal paper. He wrote one line at the top of the reference letter. And he signed his name at the bottom. So the fellow asked him, why don't you sign near your text? So he says, because it says Midvar Sheker Tircha. So that was the Ragachover. He said things the way they were.
Speak up so that
those hear.
Silver Climate told me
that were Christ.
It's not in bad.
It's not in bad. And-
That's what your book's about.
And he met, nothing done.
Who's a Ger Chuzin, right?
Yeah. Anyway, and he went to a price, he told a price, he was very upset. He just went to the rubber show, he showed him the paper that he written in the essence of Hashana. He flipped through it, and said, very just contributing that. And Rob, he said, they asked the price, what would you have done? He said, if I told me Yiddish, I would have thought it weird.
Let's go right. Ein ma'akvin is that tinoikus milaskoya. You don't stop children from blowing shofar. Zogt Gemara hanoshim ma'akvin. So women, you would stop them from blowing. So let's see Rashi. The last of the first four lines of Rashi. Tinoikos hudloi ma'akvin daboy lechanuchayu. Because the Maisa, we want them to learn how to blow shofar. But noshim who are tourist lagami, Rashi says, because ki shofar is a mitzvah sasei. Says man gramahu and v'chitaki ikal bal toisef. So maybe since it's a mitzvah say so man grama, you shouldn't let them blow it all because they never need to. But Tanya, we learned ein ma'akvin lo yasanoshim v'lo yasitinoikos milaskoya b'yomta. We don't prevent them from blowing shofar on Yom Tov. Amar Abaye lo kasha harab Yehuda harab Yosy harab Shimon. It's a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda on one side and Rabbi Yosy and Rabbi Shimon on the other side. The Tanya Daber el bnei Yisrael. This is referring to the mitzvah to do smicha on the carbon. And the Gemara tells us, the Brayso tells us, bnei Yisrael samchin, men do smicha, ben bnei Yisrael samchos. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. And Rashi says, bnei Yisrael samchin, daber el bnei Yisrael v'mar talem adam ki yakiv miken, v'chsiv v'hu inyan v'samach yad. So there's a chiv smicha for a man, and there's not a chiv smicha for a woman. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosy, Rabbi Shimon Armim, nashim samchos v'shus, nashim could do a smicha if they want to. Rashi says, even though the Torah says that they're part of a smicha, so I besides time to lean on an animal of Chodesh, who said you should allow them to do that? Leki surah. So Rashi, who did a mitzvah says man grama, so too would be a mitzvah says man grama. So this is a very important and interesting Rashi, because Rashi is clearly saying that smicha is not a mitzvah say man grama. Shofar might be, but not smicha. Why isn't smicha a mitzvah say man grama? You don't do it all the time. You do it when it's time to bring a carbon. And the oid kasha, why do I need a pasuk to tell you that women don't make smicha if in fact is a mitzvah say man grama? So we know the general rule: the women are potter from a mitzvah say man grama. So before I explain, very simple: a mitzvah say man grama is a mitzvah that expires. You have a mitzvah to blow shofar by day. Tonight, once the night comes, the mitzvah expires. Smicha doesn't expire. Sure, it only comes when you bring a carbon, but it's not a mitzvah with an expiry date. Whenever you have a carbon to do smicha, there's a mitzvah to do smicha. That's why you need the pasuk to tell you that the ein b'nois Yisrael someplace, and that's why Rashi clearly says we learn from this. Even though women aren't mechuyev, they still can do it. So too by mitzvah sasei man grama like shofar. Even though women are not mechuyev, they could. Tosfos gets into a long shaila. If you make a bracha on a mitzvah sasei shazman grama that you're potter of, Tosfos brings multiple rayos that you do, and in fact that is what happens, right? Women make brachas. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the long Tosfos. Tosfos goes through a whole because he's bringing a raya from all of Shas. He's brought a raya from the Gemara. Rabbi Yosy says, I used to say whoever says Allah Rabbi Yehuda, Avid into Yom Tov Rabbanon, because I'm not Matzuvah Vaisa, and I'm doing it anyway. Because he holds God like Matzuvah Vaisa. But then when he said God Matzuvah Vaisa, I would rather hear that. I would rather be Matzuvah Vaisa. So Tosfos asks, I don't understand. If any Matzuvah Vaisa is not Mechuyev in the mitzvah, what would Rabbi Yosy say have a mina to be happy and not to be Matzuvah Vaisa? He can't make a bracha. So it must be that regardless you'd be able to make a bracha. And that's the main raya that Tosfos talks about, and as Tosfos wants to discuss, maybe there's different, sumo is part of a mitzvah, and a mitzvah says man grama for women. But a couple of them, we know, we pass that women do make a bracha mitzvahs, even if it's a mitzvah say man grama. Zot Gemara back. Avam is asking Bahem Achi Yomadu. You could work with the kids so that they should learn how to blow shofar. Omer Belazar, Afilu b'Shabbos. Even on Shabbos, you're going to let children blow shofar, right? And we don't blow shofar on Shabbos, only in Beis. Tanya Nami, we learned another brayso. Mis asking behen ad shilamdu. We could work with them until they learn. Afilu b'Shabbos. Ve'ein ma'akmin as a tinokus milaskoya. And you don't stop the tinokus from blowing. And the Gemara takes out the next words, b'yomtiv. You don't stop the children from blowing on Yom Tov. So, in fact, Gemara, this comment is mineu be'ashtira. Hagufakasha. Aren't mis asking ben achi yomudu va'afilu b'Shabbos. You said that even on Shabbos, you're allowed to work with the children, that they should learn how to blow shofar. And then we have to skip the words, tani, and then it says, ein ma'akvin. You don't stop them. It means ikuva hudloi ma'akvin, you won't stop them. But you won't tell them to blow. So the question here is, the Brayso Minei in one place says, you should teach them, even on Shabbos. And in the other statement, the Brayso says that on Yom Tov you don't stop them, but Avad you shouldn't encourage them. So how do you understand this here? So it's more like Kasha. Kan the katan shegil lechinach. If it's a katan shegil lechinach, so Rashi, then misaskin bahem shiyomadu. Then you work with them. Because they're already in the parsha. Because they're hegil lechinach. The kan the katan shlo hegil lechinach, they're not in the parsha now. And Rashi says she'eni mischaben l'skia. I'm sorry, that's vital. A katan shlo hegil lechinach is not even in the parsha. There you don't stop them, but you don't encourage them. Tosfos does not like this pshat, and Tosfos learns where is the Tosfos? I don't know where Tosfos. I saw Tosfos yesterday. Tosfos learns for carrot. Where did I see Tosfos yesterday? Oh, look at that. Oh no, the Tosfos at the bottom. The Tosfos at the bottom of the actually learns for carrot. He says, "By a katan shegil lechinach, there you don't stop them. By a katan shalai gil lechinach, there even a chatchila you stop." Yeah. Tosfos learns the opposite. If you look at Tosfos quickly, Tosfos says, he says over here, look, Kasha, the third line. Tosfos says, "Kam b'kodesh shegil lechinach, kam b'kodesh lo gil lechinach u'pish b'kontrish, shel gil lechinach mis asken ben, not shilomadu, b'chol shkeshem akrim." But David Tamer over there, Seich yochal omer, to b'kodesh shegil lechinach, mis asken v'afilu b'Shabbos, how could you say a katan who's a gil lechinach? We're going to teach them proactively, even on Shabbos where we're not allowed to blow. Today, technically, there's no mitzvah. We don't blow shofar on Shabbos. The guy the katan shaloi gilachinach katani ein ma'akvin milaskoya b'Shabbos. By a katan shaloi gilachinach, it says ein ma'akvin milaskoya, but you don't stop them. But you don't tell them l'chilaloi. Amai hafilu begilachinach shari lis asik boy kadesh yilmud. If we're saying now at this point that someone who's a gila chinuch, you could work with them, so they should learn. So why is it any worse if it's like gila chinuch? It cannot be worse. So he ends up saying nearly if the katan shagila chinuch, there ain't the akvin l'Shabbos b'Shabbos of the chil loyim in lo tiku. Even the kikasur derabana. Since there's an isur derabana to blow shofar on Shabbos because of Rava's halacha, that someone might carry it. Therefore, a katan shagila chinuch, you will not encourage them. But you won't stop a katan from practicing blowing shofar if he is blowing. The Eloi Shabbos of wasn't Shabbos, it would be a mitzvah. But the katan shagila chinuch, they're misasking, they're shari l'sasik afilu b'Shabbos. The lav mishum de mechayiv l'sasik, but not because you're mechayiv to do it. It's just because it's a katan shagila chinuch, so there's no problem. So it doesn't mean there's a chiyuv to do it. It means you could even do it if you wanted to. So those are the two different options in how to understand the Gemara, which means according to either option, it means no matter how you do it, according to one option, there's going to be someone who tells you cannot help them and encourage them with their gilachinach, and according to the other shot, you can't have not gilachinach. So I guess either way, you shouldn't let your children blow shofar on Shabbos, which I don't think anybody does. So what is the definition of misasik? So Rashi says, "Misasik lo yotza, she'enai mischaben litkia." You weren't even trying to blow. Afil the lav mitzvah, elaminbach nevuchi. Like we learned before, you were just blowing in, but not really to make a sound. You weren't even trying to make the sound of a tkiya. Oisha yenoifech b'shofar, but also be tkiya. He was just playing with it, blowing into, and it came out the sound, but he had no intention of even making that sound. Zok to Gemara. Let's make a deal. Misasik lo yotza. If you weren't even planning to make a sound of a Tkiya, that's when you're not Yosy. Hatakei l'shir. But what if you had an zinin to blow, but you weren't going for the mitzvah, you were just blowing because you wanted to play an instrument? Yosy, you'd be Yosy. This should be a right to Rava that we learned a couple of blot ago. The Omer Rava, Hatakei l'shir Yosy, was at the bottom of an Omer Aleph, right? Let's see where it was. It was Chof Chesam Aleph. At the bottom of Chof Chesam Aleph, Rava said Hatakei l'shir Yosy. The Gemara asked from this Gemara on him. So you have a right from here that Hatakei l'shir is Yosy. So tomorrow you don't have a right. Because Dilma, in our brisa, in our Mishnah, Takei l'shir nami misasa kurle. Maybe our Mishnah, when it says misasa yotza, it means that Takei l'shir also. So you can't bring a right from here that Takei l'shir would be yotza, because maybe our Tana, when it says misasa, it includes Takei l'shir. So you don't have a right to Rava, of course, but it's not a kash on Rava. Zok to more vater. V'asheimei min misasa yotza. Someone who's misasik, he's not yotza. If you hear the shofar, he's not yotza. What about Hashemeya? What if someone was blowing shofar for himself, but he didn't intend to blow for anybody else? My yotza would be yotza. This should be shrine of Abzera. Again, we went through the sugya a couple of days ago. The Amar Abzera, because Abzera said, "L'shabei to a shabbos, ichven v'takali." He said, "Don't just blow for me. Blow enough kavanah to be mitzvah me." So you see, Abzera holds that you're not yotza from a Baal Tekeya, unless the Baal Tekeya specific kavanah to be mitzvah. The Gemara, Vaita, you don't have a right. Dilma Aidi the Tana Reisha Misasik, Tana Seif Nami Misasik. Maybe it says by Misasik Lo Yotza, but maybe who Adin our Tana holds that if the blower didn't have kavanah to be mitzvah, I'm also not yotza. So why did the Tana use the word Misasik? Because that's what the subject matter was, which stuck the word Misasik. But in fact, even if he had kavanah to blow, he just didn't have kavanah to be mitzvah, it also wouldn't be good. So therefore, it's not shver and observe.
What possibly that this is a Jewish kavanah generally? And here it's for sure you need to have kavanah. You need that. I don't care if it's kavanah is the mitzvahs or it's I'm blowing shofar rather than just tooting my horn.
I don't know if we pass on like observe.
We not possibly that.
Yeah, but so I don't know who said that stems with observe.
The Mishnah, even if the regular Mishnah says.
The Mishnah says misasek lo yotza. The Mishnah doesn't say if you didn't have kavanah to be mitzvah, you're not yotza.
But if isn't that misasek?
Misasek is worse than davar shenim achav. Misasek means I'm not even trying to do the action. If I'm trying to do the action, but I'm not macham for the mitzvah, there you say mitzvah and shrichas kavanah. But if I'm not even trying to do the action, and just the action just happened sort of by itself, there, everybody agrees it wouldn't be.
Yeah, if something could be said before, if somebody is passing by,
Right, the Gemara wanted to bring a raya from that specific Mishnah against Reb Zeir, because the blower is not having kavanah for him. And the Gemara answered there wasn't an individual blower; it was the communal blower who has in mind everybody. But that's just to save Reb Zeir. But I don't know if we pass on like Reb Zeir. Okay, let's see the head of the Gemara.
We love drinking out because we have to have the wine.
Yeah. But I don't know. But if you hold mitzvah and shechus technically, I don't know. I don't know. Right. Yeah.
I'm just curious as to why.
It's definitely better to have kavanah. Why would the world refrain from telling everybody to have kavanah?
So let's see the Gemara right. The Seder Tkiyos. The Seder Tkiyos. It would be so good to have a Baal Tekei over here. Seder Tkiyos, Shalois, Shalois. The theme today is 3. So what does Rashi say? Seder Tkiyos Shalois, Achas LaMalchios, the Achas LaZechronos, the Achas LaShoifros. So that's what it means. Shalois, Shalois. Tkiya, Uturu Tkiya, L'chol Achas ve'Achas. So you need to have a Tkiya, True Tkiya, 3 for each of the sets of Malchis or Kohanim Shofars. Now, of course, since we don't know what the Shvarim is, we have 3 options. It's either what we call a Shvarim, or it's what we call a Trua, or what we call a Shvarim Trua. And that's why each of our 3 is actually more than 3, because we're not sure what the Shvarim is, or what the Trua is. Shir Tkiya, what is the length of a Tkiya? So the Gemara kishalosh yavavis, like 3 yavavis. Rashi is shalosh yavavis, shalosh kailas ba'alma kosher. So the shear of a trua is 3 small toots, not 9, right? Taka b'rishayna umashach b'shniya kashtayim. We already had this case earlier. So you did your tkiya, shavarim tkiya, but the second tkiya, you blew a very long tkiya, and you were hoping that tkiya would also be good for the tkiya, trua tkiya. Ein biyadei alachas. You only have 1 tkiya. Taka b'rishayna Rashi, pshuta shalafnei trua, taka kedarka, umashach b'shniya tkiya shal achar trua, mashach kashtayim. He blew a doubly long tkiya. Lotus ba yidei shtayim. To be yotze the tkiya, the end of the last set, as well as the tkiya, to begin the next set. So yitzarech lasais zu achar zu. You had to do one after the other. Pshuta shal achara. The malchiyos of pshuta shal achara. Nevertheless, ein biyadei alachas the psuke tkiya achas l'shtayim loy mafsikim. We don't split a tkiya in half, like we learned earlier. Okay. There's a big shaila. We have a little bit of time. There's a big shaila as to how we understand what does it mean the shir tkiya kishalosh truas. So Rashi says that the shir of a tkiya is really not much longer than the shir of a shvar, but Tosfos actually says the shir of a tkiya is much longer. So let's try to learn part of Tosfos because we do have a little bit of time, and it's a very important Tosfos as to how we blow shofar. Shir trua kishalosh yavalis. Pirish b'kuntrus. Shloisha koilos ba'alma kol. A trua is 3 tiny little notes. L'kamon arina, the asking Rabbi Vo b'kisvi, on Lamed Da'al, we're going to learn tomorrow, that Rabbi Vo was masakin the kisvi, tkiya shvar trua tkiya shvar tkiya, shia trua tkiya, which is exactly what we do. We should do a suffix for trua the kra, because we have a suffix, the trua mentioned in the pasuk, e trua mamish, mashanu kayin trua, do yalula yalam, is it what we call a trua? Oy shvarim, or is it a shvarim of three mid-size krechts? The genuch ganach. Oy, maybe it means shvarim or trua shneim tzarech l'trua, or maybe it means both. The delma genuch ganach v'yalula yalam. So therefore, you need all 3, which explains arming. Mitzarech lizar b'shvarim zok Tosfos. You have to be very careful by your shvarim. Shelo yehi marich akol echad b'fnei atzmai. Since we're saying, according to Rashi, that 3 truos, two, is the shir of tkiya, because Rashi learns shir tkiya kashalish truos, right? That means a shvarim is also that length. So you have to be very careful when you blow the shvarim. See, on the one hand, Rashi is saying that tkiya is a shorter tkiya because it's only the size of the 3 truos. But that also could create you a problem for you, because if by the shvarim you blow a shvarim that's too long, that meets the minimum threshold of what Rashi holds would make a kosher tkiya, then you're going to have a problem. Then you have a tkiya there instead of a shvarim. So shir tkiya ketrua, b'shir trua kigimel yavavis. V'nira zok Tosfos, another important thing, that your tkiya has to be the same length as the coil that it's enveloping, whether it's the shvarim trua, whether it's the shvarim or the trua. So Zok Tosfos is near shechayiv adam laharich b'tkiya shel tkiya shvarim trua tkiya yosher mishel tkiya shvarim tkiya. Why? Because since the coil of the trua in the middle is longer, because it's a shvarim and a trua combined, so the tkiya has to match that length as well. So the tkiya of the shvarim trua has to be longer than the tkiya of the shvarim alone, or the trua alone. Ubishel kashak yosem mishel karak, and you should have a longer tkiya by the shvarim than you will have by the trua, because again, a shvarim is still a longer note than the trua. The shir tkiya ketrua, as we're saying, or could be, we always do it longer.
I always think that the 3 of the shvarim is equal to the trua. Our shvarim that we do
Is the 3 shvarim is 9 truas.
Right, so that way when you do the tkiya shvarim tkiya with tkiya Tekiyas are the same size, but the third one, and you do
Shvarm Trua.
it doesn't make sense. But now it's a suffix, so you gotta do a little bit longer. It's double.
That's right. That's right.
Oh.
So Ashir Tkiya Ketrua, Shvarm Tkiya, Shvarm Trua Tkiya, and Oisen, Mishim Sveka, the Genuach Biolo, Nims is Tzarch Laharach Betkiyas, Shal Tvua, Shvarm Trua Tkiya, Keshir Shloisha Shvarm, Vigimel Yavavis. Ubetkiyash, Shal Tkiya, Shvarm Tkiya, Keshir Gimel Shvarm, Davdinan Tkiya, Shvarm Tkiya, Mishim Sveka, the Genuch Igonach. Ubetkiya Shal Tkiya Trua Tkiya, Keshir Trua, Shiyalula Yolo. So Rashi is saying, or Tosha is saying, that the fact that the 3 beats of the Trua is actually shorter than the Shvarm, is what Tosha is assuming. Umiu, in Marich B'cholat Kiyais, Ketiyais, Tekiya, Shvarm Trua Tekiya, Ein Lachash, Yachal Harach Kamash Yirta, which is what we do, right? I don't think they time the Tekiyas to be shorter. He did not. Umashach B'shniya Kishtayim in the Yod Elachas. So you see clearly, you have one. So you see, you can blow long. Utim Zanami, in Lachash and Masa Arbar B'chamisha Shvarim, Shashvarim B'mak Matrua. Babel Trua Rechta, even if you blow too many times. Okay, so let's see. Yeah. Now he has another thing. He speaks about why we're Kebi Yeshiva. Well, we don't. We technically stand, but we do before the we blow before the Amida. That's right.
That's what we
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just going to go towards the bottom. But Achshav nowadays, so we're 5 lines from the bottom of the skinny lines. Achshav nehagan laskoya b'yeshiva la'acha kriyas atayra shloishim kailas, which is what we do. 3 tkiyas shvarm trut kiyas, 3 tkiyas shvarm kiyas, and 3 tkiyas trut kiyas. With tefillah and during davening, taking a malchiyas, tkiyas shvarm trut kiyas, masachrayis, tkiyas shvarm kiyas, mashavis tkiyas trut kiyas. We don't do that. We do all 3 for each one.
Can I ask you just a little dumb question and that everybody can forget about it? Why do we say tekiya with a foot?
That's the big question, because it's true also with the top.
Oh, okay.
They use the second one.
I hear. Well, from sugya to chula perkin, but really according to the sugya in our parak, hayuroyu l'skoya b'shas tefila. Really, what we should do, which is what we do, is amalchiyas all 3: tekiya shvarm trua tekiya, tekiya shvarm tekiya, and tekiya trua tekiya. Which is what we do. Or after this one, I say completely kulu. We don't find to do this before. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover. Zok to Gemara. 1 second. Okay, let's see the Gemara.
I didn't say why we do it.
Why we do it both? We know the Gemara said earlier because we want to scare the Satan, right? The Gemara asks, why do we do it? The Bishiva, it's to scare the Satan. Okay, so let's see the Gemara. We are up to we're in the middle of the mission. Misha Berach, a guy who made a bracha.
Not a very smart Satan, is he?
The guy weren't too smart either. Right? We blow in the afternoon by Muslims because of them, right?
But it's important to know 2 things. First of all, the Satan really knows the koyach of the Tkiya. We're not so smart. Had we known the koyach of the Tkiya, maybe we would also take it more seriously. Satan knows that it's really imminent. It's really possible that Mashiach will come and he's done. So he's really, really nervous. And as far as what Shlomi just said, the Goyim are dumb. I didn't learn the Tosas yesterday with Oilam because we were running late, which I should have. Tosas says, what about nowadays where there's no Gzeira? Why don't we blow shofar by Shachris, right? So Tosas says, is because the Goyim, if they see us getting up first thing in the morning to blow shofar, then they'll look at it as a battle cry, and they'll look at it like we're coming to attack, and they'll attack us back, which is what happened. But if we do it in the afternoon, normally when you're starting a war, when you're starting a rebellion, you don't start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or at 3 o'clock. You don't start after the break, right? So therefore, they'll just say, okay, it's one of their minhagim. It's not something that we need to worry about.
No one's drinking.
I hear. Okay, let's see the Gemara right here. Misha Be'er. Misha Be'er. Misha, and everybody will be talking in Muslim. Misha Be'ach. So Rashi says, what does that mean? Hispal tfilas musafin uberach tesha brachas. So you already daven musaf. The achagach nesman lo shofar, and only afterwards did you get a shofar. The halach is tekeya umariva tekeya shalish pamim. You blow the seder tkiyas. Rashi is tekeya umariva tekeya shalish pamim. Tekeya umariva tekeya b'shval malchiyos. V'chein b'shval schroinos. V'chein b'shval shofars. Even though you're not technically blowing now. Kishem shliach tzibur chayiv. Just like the Baltfila is mechuyev in the Tkiyah Shofar, to say Malchus or Furnace for Shofar is not only Tkiyah Shofar, and saying Malchus or Furnace for Shofar is Kachal Yochad the Yochad Chay. No, Shliach Tzibur Moitzi as a Rabbi Deichei Basim. Not everybody has to say Malchus or Furnace for Shofar, only the Shliach Tzibur has to. So we would have a shorter Shemon Esrei, and the Chazan is a long Shemon Esrei. I believe so, yeah. So let's see the Heilig Gemara. So at Tanya we learned Shir Tkiyah Kitrua. So in our Mishnah it says Shir Tkiyah Kishalish Truas. Yet here it says the Brisa says Shir Tkiyah Kitrua, not Kishalish Truas. So what is it? Dr. Gemara, Amar Abai, it's not a steer. Tana Didan Kash Chashav Tkiyah Dechulu Bavi Truas Dechulu Bavi. What our Tana is doing is he's saying if you add up the length of time of all the truas in the set, and you add up all the time of all the kiyos in the set, they should be exactly the same. Tana braka chashav chad baba v'sulai. And the Tana, the Brisa is saying if you take one kiyah, it should be the same length as one trua. So they're saying the same thing, this just expressing it differently. So Rashi, Tana didan kachashav the kula babi b'achikamer shir hashalish kiyos kishir shalish truas. It's putting it all together. The Tana Baral Kashav the Chada Bava Shirat Kiyah Kishir Trua B'Tavayu Chada Milsa'am. They're really saying exactly the same thing, just expressing it in a different way. Zok Gemara Shir Trua is the Gimel Yavalis. Here already we're going to find a discrepancy that we won't be able to brush off due to a different way of expressing it. But Tanya Shir Trua Kishalish Shvarim. We learned that a Trua is like 3 Shvarims, which is 9 blasts, right? Which is what we consider 9 blasts. Shvar mashas are ruchim yavams. Amar Abaye b'havadibli. Here you have to say clearly their argument. And Rashi tells us, Avagavdu kimna to be Reisha like pligi, even though we were able to find a way to say in the Reisha that they're not arguing. Al kochach b'seifa pligi, but in their length of what a trua is, there's clearly a discrepancy between the Mishnah and the Brisa. The lesh l'shmiyim babidi. There is no way you could possibly find a way out of this. The Chsivit says, Yom Terua Yelachem. U'metargaminon, that true is a Yavava. So I mean, Yom Yavava Yelachem. And where do you find the Lashon of Yavava? U'be'emet Sisra Ksiv Nami Hailishne B'tiyamid. U'chsiv be'emet Sisra, she was waiting for her son, the general, to come home, the big successful general, and he didn't show up. She was waiting there looking out the window, and he wasn't coming. But Tiyabe Ve'em Sisra. So the question is, what exactly is the structure of this cry? It's 3 longish blasts, similar to that of a shvar. So which is a longer krech. So therefore, the Brisa that says Shir Trua Kishali Shvarim learns that that's Takab Chat. It's a longer Shvar. Mashenke. Our Mishnah is referring to a much shorter Shvar. It's only three short blasts. So there's actually machlokes what the length of the Trua is, and our Brisa holds it's longer. It's like three Shvarims, and the Mishnah holds it's like 1 Shvar. The question is, Vos Epis, the Torah decides to teach us how long your tkiyah should be from Aim Sisra?
Not only that, it's Onkelus's page on the word Trua. We're going all the way to.
So that I don't have an answer for.
No,
It might have been a zecher to that episode. I mean, we obviously didn't have this minute before Sisra came around, and we had the mitzvah of Shlomo. And one sister came around and we had this nevuah. That's what happened. And they want us to remember what kind of a mummy was.
Could be. But what I heard over was that Sisera was on the top of the world. He was the guy. No one ever dreamt that he's losing a war. It was a huge nace that he lost the war. He had to have won. It was a given that he was going to win. Yet, he didn't. Because Rabbi Shah made it that way. So when a person comes to Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi Shah wants us to remember, you could be on top of the world, but you're not guaranteed for tomorrow. Every day, you need a Rabbi Shah.
Nothing is going to work. Don't worry.
You can turn that around too. In Hanami, but in Sisera's case, the example was Sisera was at the top of the world and he lost it. But in Hanami, if you look at it from the Jewish perspective, they were very afraid and all turned around. Like by the 6-day war, they were terrified that they were going to get obliterated. And the Rebbe made a huge nace. If you hold it was an ace, if you hold it like a husband, that's right.
So that's why I tried.
Not here. Tell the Rabban. Minayin shebishay. How do you know that you're supposed to blow a shofar? Talmud Loimer, Vavarter, Shofar, Trua. Now, where does it say this pasuk of Vavarter, Shofar, Trua? It's not even talking about Rosh Hashanah. It says Vavarter, Shofar, Trua, B'chodesh Hashvi, B'asal HaChodesh, on Yom HaKippurim, Tarivu Shofar B'chal Artzachem, which is talking about Yovel, the Yom Kippur of Yovel. And this is how our parak started with a Gzera Shava from Yovel to Rosh Hashanah. That's why our mission started off saying that it would be the same type of shofar that you would blow. So now the Gemara is revealing that Gzera Shava. I would only know that on Yovel you need a shofar. Rosh Hashanah minayin. Who says that the mitzvah of shofar applies to Rosh Hashanah as well? It says b'chodesh hashvi. Ain't Talmud Lomer b'chodesh hashvi. It doesn't have to say b'chodesh hashvi. It says the same Kippur already in the same pasuk. So why did the pasuk stick in those extra words when they were talking about Yovel to tell us b'chodesh hashvi? So you call truos shachodesh shavi zekazeh. All the truos that we blow in chodesh Tishrei should be alike, and therefore the same way you blow a shofar on the Yovel of Yom Kippur, you also blow a shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Now, how do you know that before the trua you blow a tkiyah? I guess first you have to blow the shofar and then the trua. The shofar afterwards. I would only by Yovel, Rosh Hashanah 9. How do you know by Rosh Hashanah you also have the same structure? The tkiyah shvar tkiyah, the tkiyah trua tkiyah 9. The same Gzera Shava we mentioned a second earlier. It doesn't have to say it because we know that it's on Yom Kippur. Rashi says, "Uma Talmud Loimar Chodesh Hashvi sheyehu kol teruas hachodesh hashvi zeh kazeh." Okay, let's see Rashi on top. Shin Talmud Loimar Chodesh Hashvi the cost of lawn the Chama Mekoymes the Yom Kippurim b'Chodesh Hashvi. We know Yom Kippurim is in the 7th month. And it says right in the pasuk Yom Kippurim. Vavarta has a mashmois of pshuta. Havaris koy lechad, one koy. So that's before the trua. And b'yom kippurim taviru hari avar tchila v'soif. You had a lashon avar, which means a tkiyah before the trua, and a lashon avar, which means a tkiyah after the tkiyah. With trua ksiva bein time. Okay, let's learn a couple of extra lines. We'll just chaper. Uminayin shel shalosh. Uminayin shalosh shel shalosh. So Rashi says uminayin tahanach pshuta lefanel ula acharel utrua beemta avdinin tlosasim. How do you know you do it 3 times? Lamachi is chada, ulazachron is chada, ulashayf is chada. Talmud Loimer, Vavarta, shofar teruah, and Rashi tells us teruah telosa zimni. It says teruah 3 times. Ulachal achas pshuta lefanei pshuta lachareh. So it says Vavarta shofar teruah, Shabbos and zichron teruah, Yom Kippur yilachem. So since it says 3 times, that's how we know we do this set 3 times, 1 for Malchis, 1 for Zechronis, 1 for Shabbos. Minayin litn es ha'omer shal zeh bazeh. The Rashi, these 3 truas were not all said in the same pasuk. There's 3 psukim in different places. 2 of them were said in reference to Rosh Hashanah. And one of these psukim are referring to Yovel. So you can the kan shalosh. Maybe you would learn that there's 2 by Rosh Hashanah and there's 1 by Yovel. How do you know that you put it all together and all 3 apply? They're both Rosh Hashanah and Yovel. Shvi l'gzera shava the same thing that we said before. Never Rosh Hashanah, I'm back in Rashi, never Rosh Hashanah b'chodesh Hashvi, but never b'yovel v'avar t'shoy v'trua b'chodesh Hashvi. HaKetzad, Shalosh, Chain Tesha, 3 kiyas that are really 9 because you do it 3 times. I'm sorry? Shvi is the extra word in the pasuk that tells us that you should apply whatever we're saying on Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, and you should apply whatever you're learning on Yovel to Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We'll stop here. What? Rashi saying the Gemara is telling us not like it. Yeah, the Gemara is telling us not like it. Okay, so let's stop here.
You know that the Shia has better